Hey, Mom Nation. Welcome to our From the Heart podcast, where we share inspirational stories, useful information, and we discuss a wide variety of women-related topics. While you're listening to this episode on your favorite podcast platform, please subscribe to our channel and rate us so that we can get this information out to the moms that need to hear it. If you'd like to join the conversation, we are at Mom Nation USA. That's our handle on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hey y'all, Katie here, founder of Mom Nation and owner and operator of Team Evo AZ at eXp Realty, your go-to gal for anything real estate in the state of Arizona. I am the sponsor of today's show. I will link my page and information in the show notes so you can quickly and easily get in touch with me should you need anything real estate, any advice, or maybe you're looking to get into the business. I sure hope you enjoy today's show. Thanks for listening. What's up, Mom Nation? We are back with another episode of From the Heart, where we talk about women here. We talk about women that have risen from the ashes, that have gone through some trials and tribulations in life and have come out on the other side successfully. And today I'm so excited to spend a little bit of time with today's guest. I have been waiting for her to come on. Ashley, welcome to the show. Ashley Beeman, really appreciate you being here with us and you agreeing to come on, talk about your story.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to share my story with your followers.
Yeah, me too. And I know that there are many of our followers, or a good percentage, I should say, that have suffered through addiction, either themselves or they've had a family member or a friend that it has affected, and therefore it has impacted their lives. So I know that this will be a very interesting topic to many of our readers out there and would love to just dive right into your story. Let's start at the beginning, Ashley. When did this all start for you?
Yes, absolutely. So I had my first son in 2011, and this is kind of when it all started. We prepare for the baby to come, and we buy all the things and read all the books about the baby, but I oftentimes think that we forget about ourselves.
Like, 100%.
Like, what's actually happening to our bodies? What are we going through emotionally, mentally, all of the different things. And I remember having him was the happiest day of my life, and then coming home and looking at my body and thinking, what the heck happened? Like, I don't even know. I'm not prepared for this. I don't want anybody to come to my house. I don't want anybody to see me. And I had a few friends at the time who had jumped on Phentermine, which is a weight loss drug. And they're like, just go to this place and get some and it'll be great. And so I did. I went there, I got on it, and that was really the start of my addiction to stimulants. Now, I didn't realize at the time that was going to snowball, but what had happened was I would lose the weight, I would feel good, and then I would get off and the weight would come back, so I would go back on it. And then after I had my second son, I got to the point where I couldn't focus on anything. And I remember standing in the kitchen, and it took me 3 hours to unload the dishwasher. At this time, I had been off Phentermine for a couple months, and I was really, really struggling. And I remember coming to my husband saying, something is wrong. I just cannot focus on anything. And I feel so frustrated because I can't do these simple tasks throughout the day. And he said, well, why don't you go to the doctor and see what's going on? So this weight loss clinic that I went to was also like a walk-in doctor situation. And I walked in and I told her what was going on. And she looked at my chart and she said, well, I think that you have been basically using the Phentermine as a way to cope with your ADHD.
Interesting.
Because they're very similar drugs.
Right.
And she said, do you have more weight to lose? Because you probably don't want it on your record that you have ADHD. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. I have 10 more pounds to lose. So she put me back on the Phentermine and things went back to feeling good. And I was able to focus and stuff. And then I lost the 10 pounds and I couldn't keep going back. So she eventually prescribed Adderall to me. That was good for a few months. And then when I realized that I was actually on a trip, it was a work trip that I had earned in Cancun, and I felt so good on Adderall. Like, I had the confidence that I was looking for. It kept me looking the way that I wanted to look. I could focus. I could do all of these things. And it was at that trip that I started taking double my dose. And I basically was awake for 5 days straight at that trip to Cancun.
Oh my.
And yeah, and it was the beginning of my of the real bad addiction part. For 2 years, I would just create this cycle where I would go through my script for in about 2 weeks. And then the other 2 weeks of the month, I would be in bed, sleeping, feeling sick, looking if I could get some either like off the streets or call the doctor, tell him I lost my script. I did that a few times. And eventually in June of 2016, we were on a family road trip and I had said, enough is enough and I can't live this way anymore. And I want to be here for my kids. So it was my son's 3rd birthday that I officially gave up my addiction cold turkey and never looked back.
Wow. That was probably one of the hardest things that you've ever done.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So let me take you back to that moment in time where you took double your dose. What was the frame of mind there? What was the reason for that? Why did you think that that was something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, it was, when I was at home, the day would come to an end and I could, when the Adderall wore off, I was able to just go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
When we were in this, I had a lot of social anxiety. I don't so much anymore, thank goodness. But when I was meeting all of these people that I only knew from the internet, it was like my dose of confidence. And so as soon as it would wear off, I was like, oh, well, I'll just take another half, which then led to another half and another half and another half. And it just snowballed.
And so it made you feel invincible, though. I mean, you were feeling like Superwoman. And for somebody that had anxiety issues, and so let me back up. You have been clinically diagnosed ADHD or you have not?
I have, yeah. The process that she took me through was just a form that I filled out,
Mm-hmm.
and she diagnosed me right there. But after I had gotten off of it cold turkey, I started working with another doctor and she diagnosed me with ADHD.
And so you probably had some of the other symptoms from that you maybe were unsure of or didn't know how to handle. And so the Adderall removed that for you. And then all of a sudden you're feeling like a whole new woman here.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was just the magic pill to everything in my life. I wasn't hungry when I was on it. I had energy. I felt like my brain was on fire. I had the confidence. And it was good until it wasn't.
Right. Now, why did the first doctor, and I don't know if you know this, but why did the first doctor say you don't want to have ADHD on your record? Like, what's wrong with that?
I know. Isn't that so funny? That has stuck
Yeah.
with me for so long. She never really explained it to me, but her saying that is like ingrained in my brain. Like, you don't want this on your record. But in fact, maybe I do because I have it. And, nothing's wrong with me. It's just the way my brain functions.
Exactly right. And what better to help you get the help that you need and the support that you need than without the actual clear diagnosis of what's going on. I would think that that's important.
Yeah, that medical clinic is actually closed now. So I'm sure that there was some
other things happening
going on.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I guess that's probably good.
Yeah.
So talk to me about life in the addiction and when you kind of came to that realization that you can't continue that cycle, because for a time it must have been all rainbows and butterflies, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For a good couple months, it was like, this feels so good. I was getting more work done than ever. And just being able to focus on things I couldn't focus on before. But once I started to double the dose, like my life revolved around this pill. And if I didn't have that pill, like I was just a maniac. And the energy was up and down, up and down. And I was either super happy or super enraged and mad. And like, couldn't be around people unless I had that pill. I remember my 30th birthday, we went on an off-road trip and everybody was drinking and nobody knew that I was just popping Adderall left and right. And on our way back, I looked at my husband. We were driving in our Razor and I said, you're gonna have to pull over and like call 911 because my heart is going to come out of my chest and I'm gonna die right here. And luckily,
Wow.
he didn't. He calmed me down and got me back to where we were going, and I was able to just calm down and I survived that. But that was probably the moment that I started to think like, this isn't okay. This isn't right. I need to do something, but I didn't do anything at that point. That was in August of 2015. So I had, in December around that year, I remember writing in my journal, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be controlled by this pill. I have to get off of this. So I really set the intention to stop at the beginning of 2016, but it took me to get behind that about 6 months for me to actually pull the trigger and say, I'm completely done.
Yeah, it's so hard. So you had that one incident where your heart was racing. I would imagine having, doubling your dose and having more than what's prescribed to you could cause health problems like that. Are there any other issues that you experienced, or what was that leading up to? Was that a heart attack?
I'm sure it probably was. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, you just felt like your heart's going to beat out of your chest. There's a lot of pressure and pain in your chest. So those were some of the side effects. The other side effects, I was constipated all the time. There was one time where it's like 2 weeks, like you could see it in my stomach just sitting there. And so there was that. I had hair loss. My skin just did not look okay. It was completely dried out. You're always dehydrated, and you're not eating. So as soon as like you would start to come down, it was just like I couldn't get enough food or sleep in me.
Yeah, and those are two very important things.
Yeah.
How about so those are health issues which are pretty extensive. How about relationship, family issues, relationships at work, things like that? Like, how did that go?
Yeah. So luckily I've worked myself for a really long time. And so I didn't really have a boss to turn to, and I was able to kind of just, when I was high, let's say, I was working a lot, and then when I was, coming down, I wouldn't work at all. Nobody in my life actually knew that I was taking it other than my husband, and bless his heart, he'll support me, good or bad, he's there for me. So we've had that conversation, like, what, thank you for supporting me during that time, but I wish you would have called me out.
Yeah.
But I'm really close to my parents and stuff. And talking to my mom later after she found out what was going on, she's like, I didn't know what was going on, but it was like a whirlwind. Like you would come in and it was just like, actually was the tornado. She'd run through the house and then leave. And she told me, she goes, I thought that your husband was going to leave you because you were just so out of control. So she didn't know I was taking that, but she could see that like something isn't quite right there.
Yeah. So, well, that's amazing that you have that kind of relationship where you have the support. There's a lot of ladies out there, bless them, bless their hearts, that are dealing with things like this that don't have the support, or their spouse is in a way causing more reason for them to use and, for them to not get away from it. So, I mean, thankfully, that's really awesome that you have built that kind of relationship. So kudos to you, because that isn't easy. I don't care who you are. It's a process. It's work to have a relationship like that. So awesome job. What was the process of weaning yourself off like? I mean, it must have been quite painful and quite difficult for at least a minute.
Yeah, for sure. So by the time that I was ready to quit and give up, I was so used to going through that process every month. Like, okay, we're out of the script again. So honestly, the first time that I ran out of the script was probably worse than when I decided to go off cold turkey and not look back. when I came back from that trip from Mexico, I remember I looked like green and I was so sick to my stomach and I couldn't even focus or talk to anybody or even like drive down the street. It was just like, you need to go to sleep. So by the time that I had decided enough was enough, I kind of already knew what those feelings were. It was getting past the point of, okay, I can refill my script now. Don't go back to the doctor. And at that point, I had found a new doctor, a naturopath that I had come clean to. She was the first person that I did. I said, hey, this is what's going on. And she was willing to help me. And I had her to hold me accountable to not going back to filling that script.
That's awesome. Can we talk a little bit about that and what that process is like? Because I'm not sure if you've heard any part of my story, but my husband and son have both been clinically diagnosed ADHD. And so I know what somebody with ADHD goes through and deals with. And so you need some support on that end, I would imagine, at least to get you to a point where you've got a good routine. So how did she help you? What does that look like now?
So we did a lot of blood work at the beginning. And one of the things that was completely messed up because of Adderall was my thyroid, and I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So we really focused on healing that first. And for me, if my thyroid is off, that makes my ADHD go like 10 times worse. Mm-hmm. So we worked on that first and then really leaned into learning about myself and how I work and releasing the pressure off of how everybody else in the world functions. And that was a process. I mean, it took me probably 2 years to really like figure out a schedule and a routine that would work for me to where I wasn't, I can't be on the medication. So not able to use that. And then just using different things like caffeine sometimes to help and things like that. So it really was just a trial and error and really learning about me and how I work.
That's important because, no two are the same. My two boys are not the same. They don't have the same schedule. They don't have the same things that overwhelm them, that kind of thing. So right now you are not medicated at all. You are using more natural substances.
Yeah. So right now I do take thyroid medication. But other than that, caffeine is my friend, and I've learned to be able to use it in a way that's not harmful to me or anything else, but also just giving myself grace and learning. So I work for myself still, and I know that there are days where I'm going to have complete hyperfocus. And on those days, I'll get done more than most people get done in a week. So I know that throughout the week, 1 or 2 of those days, I will have hyperfocus and I will get it done. And the other days, I just have to learn to give myself a little bit of grace when I'm distracted. Sometimes I just have to let myself be distracted. Yeah. And that's the way we get through the day.
You know what? That's so true. You got to kind of follow that natural rhythm of what you naturally want to do. I totally understand that. And the more that you fight against that, the more chaos that you're making for yourself, the more overwhelm that you're creating. So I totally understand that. Do you have any advice for any moms that might be just kind of climbing that ADHD mountain or even outside of ADHD diagnosis, maybe dealing with an addiction of their own?
Yes. I would say, first and foremost, give yourself all of the grace in the world. And really that relationship that you have with yourself is the most important thing. You are with yourself till the day that you die. And when you can start working with yourself rather than against yourself, like the possibilities are really, truly endless. But it's really just taking it one day at a time, getting super curious. Self-awareness is going to be your superpower through anything, and making decisions for yourself. Yes, Adderall led me down it led me to this addiction, but it also led me to so much more. And so I don't really regret it. And even when I was being diagnosed and prescribed it, I didn't tell anybody because I was ashamed of it. And I kind of wish I would have been a little bit more open. Maybe somebody would have called me out a little bit sooner. But just not being ashamed of who you are and what you're going through, because there's people out there that are going through the same thing. And the really cool thing about the internet is, we have Google, we have YouTube, and people are brave and they do share their stories. That was one thing for me, is when I did decide to give up my addiction, I couldn't find many stories out there. And I said, one day I will tell this story and I will help people. And so that's why I'm always, willing to open up and share.
I love that. And it's really helpful, right? Because even just, and I say this all the time, even just knowing that you're not alone going through something, whether it be something traumatic or, having kids, which I suppose can be traumatic, depending, you know what I mean? Like, just to know that there's somebody out there that is sharing the same feelings, might be in the same situation, is willing to talk about it, is helpful in and of itself. Like, it's almost like you don't even need to have, somebody necessarily helping you through it, but just to know that there's someone there that you can say, me too, is just, it speaks volumes. It means worlds. I always say that. I feel like the more that we share, the more we're helping each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And, sometimes you just think, I just remember thinking, like, how am I going to get past these 2 weeks? How am I going to have any energy? Is my brain ever going to be the same? And it does. It gets better. And it's almost like living in this brand new world and experiencing things for the first time again. That's the way that I look at sobriety, for sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. So tell me about this book that you wrote.
So I was asked to co-author a book, Becoming Sober 2. So this is the second edition of it. I believe there were 9 of us, and we all wrote a chapter and shared our story in there. And I can give you the info on that too.
Yeah, I would love to share that in the show notes. So if anybody is interested in kind of diving in a little bit more into your story, hearing the stories of others, is it all women, or what is?
It was men. It was men
well?
and women. And everybody had a different addiction. There were some that was alcohol, opiates, just different things.
And so, and I'm sorry if I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but did you enter any sort of program like NA or AA or anything like that to kind of help you?
So I did not. I have family that is in recovery too, and they've been down that road. I was so I guess I just didn't do it. And it wasn't a path that I took. However, I did, about a month after I gave up going cold turkey, I attended Tony Robbins' UPW. And I really, truly feel like that was something that allowed me to keep moving forward and not go backwards. Mm-hmm. It came at the right time. I'm a huge fan of subconscious reprogramming, hypnosis, and those sorts of things. So I really leaned on that while I was healing.
I love that. I talked to, all sorts of people about all sorts of things, but something that I hear a lot when I'm chatting with somebody about their journey with addiction is that it's really helpful to have some sort of support, whether that be finding spirituality or finding a group like the 12-step or something like that. It's really helpful to have that support alongside of you so that you don't give up, so that you don't regress, so that you do have somebody, like we were talking about, sharing your story and that feeling that you're not alone, so that you feel like you're not alone. You have somebody to reach out to. Is that something that you would suggest for others that are going through this particular situation?
Absolutely. And like I said, with the internet these days, there's support everywhere. I don't think there's anything wrong with AA or NA or even rehabs or recoveries. I think those are amazing things. And so, if you are just needing some sort of support, you can literally find groups on Facebook. There are, my sister is in recovery, and she was telling me that you could jump on a Zoom. I didn't even know this, but you could jump on a Zoom with people all over the world. You can turn your camera off and nobody has to see you, and you can just sit there and listen into a meeting. And I'm thinking, that is the coolest thing ever. Like how accessible the support is these days.
Totally agree. Technology has really made reaching out and connecting with others so much easier. I mean, gosh, back in my day, it was before the internet even existed. Let's not talk about that. But I totally agree. And I'm glad that you are a supporter of connecting and staying connected, because I personally think that it's an important piece of the journey. So getting the book Becoming Sober 2, you're going to send me some links so that I can pop it in the show notes here so that others can look at that, look into that, connect with that if that's something that they'd like to do. Do you, and this is okay if you don't, I have some guests that like this and some guests are like, nah, I don't know. But do you allow others to get in touch with you if they have questions or if they would like to enter this journey as well and kind of get some advice from you?
Yes, absolutely. I am an open book, and I wish there would have been a me when I was going through this. So you can find me on Facebook, Ashley Beeman, or even Instagram, the Ashley Beeman, and my inbox is always open and no judgment zone there. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to dive in.
I love it. Thank you so much, Ashley. And I will put those links in the show notes as well, guys, so that it's easy for you to just click and connect with Ashley. She is obviously, I mean, you've heard her story. She's been through it and got through it successfully. So that's amazing. Big round of applause for you, Ashley. I mean, it's such a triumph. I wish I had more for you, like some sort of trophy or something like that, because you so deserve it. And the trophy is really just getting your life back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on and allowing me to share.
Yay. Yes. And thank you for being here. All right, guys, if you want to check out any of our previous episodes, hop on over to our YouTube channel. It is at Mom Nation USA. That is our handle. And if you just scroll down a little bit, you will see the From the Heart playlist. There's a few other cool playlists there too for you to check out. So stay on that channel and check out all those other shows. If you are more of the podcast type and you prefer to listen to it versus watch, hop over to your favorite podcast platform, do a quick search for Mom Nation Talk Radio. There you will connect with our channel, do the like, follow, notifications, all of that fun stuff, and you will be notified every time we have a new episode. Thank you so much for being with us today, Ashley.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.